Good afternoon, everyone. This is the TechIT podcast, and it is August 21st of 2021. And today we have the top stories that include spotlights on companies such as Amazon, institutions such as the NIST, the FTC calling out Facebook as being a monopoly, which is probably the eighth time we've heard that in recent times. T-Mobile getting hacked? Question mark? Exclamation point, shocked face. The return of Yik Yak, and much more included in our software and hardware sections and security sections following that. I'm your host, Gregory.
And I'm Mike. Thanks for joining us, guys. Well, let's go and get into it. Let's get into the Amazon, the palm print reading data. So Amazon is they're using your palm print for, I assume, to like cash out, right? At their stores.
Yes, they've greenlighted at many Whole Foods locations because Mr. Jeff Bezos, famed space explorer Jeff Bezos, bought Whole Foods, and he tried out some Whole Foods places as well as some greenlit Amazon Go convenience stores and grocery markets, as well as Amazon bookstores that he's trying out in the Washington State area, where he's also put Amazon corporate at. So,
all right. Well, I think this is overall a good idea. Even though it does pose some questions of where are they storing this data, which I think later on in the article it does say that they store it in the cloud, right?
yeah. Instead of on the user's device, which by comparison, when you have facial ID in systems like Apple, they store that just on the user's device. So the user can delete it themselves if they want to.
That's
They
true.
like move phones and so forth. So it's like, oh, I don't want security concerns left open on this. But yeah, they essentially said that Amazon One reportedly uploads biometric information to the cloud, raising unique security concerns across many different senators as they wrote that. Data security is particularly important when it comes to the immutable customer data like palm prints.
I think what it all comes down to is, do you trust Amazon with your data? And up to this point, I have been trusting Amazon with. I mean, you have your login, your credit card info if like every time you shop on the Amazon store. If you go online, you're already trusting them with your data. So do you trust them with your palm print? And I think there's always a risk when it comes to giving out your personal data, especially if it's something like your palm print, a thumbprint or something. There's always a risk. But I think the risk here is worth it. And I think the big issue people have is if someone hacks into their database and steals my palm print and uses it to charge up a big bill, is Amazon going to be like, oh no, we see that you didn't do this, or like if you call them up, be like, yo, this wasn't
Good
me.
point.
Are they gonna honor that? Are they gonna be like, oh, we see it wasn't you, we'll refund you, blah blah blah? That's the thing I worry about is Amazon gonna be able to identify this wasn't me? You know?
Yeah,
Because if they're storing it on the cloud and someone hacks into their cloud account, they just have everybody's palm prints right there, you know?
because we'll get into later about another company that actually has failed at trying to keep data secured in the company of T-Mobile. But to close this off, overall, I think that this is just Amazon likes to shoot for many things, as the end of this article, which you can find on TechCrunch.com, is that they also inputted $10 credit for new users that enroll in the Palm Print plan, which may outcried as cheap coerce tactics, or as a cheap coercing tactic to hand over sensitive data to someone at Amazon that they don't know or will ever meet, as the AI facial recognition software is known as Recognition, spelled with a K, not a C. So they clearly didn't pass any spelling tests, which
And
the company provided to the
there
law
are
enforcement.
there are stores in other countries. I think was it China or Japan or something that use facial
Mm-hmm.
recognition
Yeah.
that when you go into the store and pick something off the shelf, it just automatically charges your account, and you can put it back on the shelf, and it takes it off your account. So this isn't new. It's been done before. Um it's not like, hey, this is the first time this has been done. So I mean, I think for as far as progress, as far as progress goes, this is good. I just kind of want to see how it pans out and like how many times they get hacked if they ever get hacked and what the results are.
I'm wondering
So
if like these people actually follow through with their concerns and not just like pointing out for like a minute and then just hit the brake pedal on this, because like I say always in this podcast, the people up in Washington sometimes don't care about technical stuff or technological issues, which is one of the reasons why I started this podcast. So,
agreed. And I think by by kind of just identifying it and letting people know, hopefully we can reach some ears that have the power to make some changes and serve everybody fairly in the community.
yes, and speaking of transparency, the National Institute for Standardization and Technology is asking for user feedback to help develop an AI risk management framework to, let's say, build trust in AI again.
This is an interesting topic because I think AI has a lot of potential. I think
It always has the potential to be something ever since Siri got public, because that was most people's first taste, let's say, at AI.
agreed, and I think we're kind of underutilizing it right now. So if we can get a framework out there that kind of has like, here's how AI will use these factors to keep people safe. Um, I'm full on board with that. Uh, I think early on there might be some flaws because I think we, and I think that's another
Hmm.
reason why they're outsourcing it to the public to kind of like get as much data and as much uh, ideas on potential risks that they can kind of lay out for the AI.
They're drafting a guidance document for voluntary use of, for intended to help developers and users and
Developers in AI,
evaluators
right?
for these
So what
systems.
they're saying is they're the
Yeah,
developers of AI.
to just come up with something to just make it more copacetic for people. As I'm going to quote Mr. Deputy Commerce Secretary, Mr. Don Graves, who put it as this: each day it becomes more apparent that artificial intelligence brings us a wide range of innovations and new capabilities that can advance our economy, security, and quality of life. It is critical that we are mindful and equipped to manage the risks that AI technology has introduced along with their benefits. So
Very well put.
it was very well put because it kind of mimics what everyone's talking about, and this is during a situation where mistrust in technology has gone up to over 61 or 2% last time I checked, according to a survey by, I think it was Washington University. So that's the second time Washington's brought up today. Oh boy.
A lot of stuff comes out of Washington. Yeah, but I think going forward, this is good, and it's a good way to get people to trust AI again, and it'll push forward some, maybe hopefully some more use cases for it.
And by the time this comes out, responses to this are probably been due, as according to this article on the NIST's own website, or at nist.gov. The responses were due on August 19th, and I have yet to see any word on what the feedback was like. As they also plan to hold a workshop in September where attendees can help develop the outline for the draft about AI risk management framework. And that information will be available if you want to look at it on the NIST website, which is nist.gov. when details are finalized about that. So I always take great respect with the NIST, as it's one of the organizations that has a an acronym, because everyone's got to have acronyms to that does what it's supposed to. As general mistrust has grown a lot since I would say the last decade in organizations in general that are involved with the government. As the NSC
Yeah.
is tied with the U.S. Department of Commerce, but I feel like I'm one with the NIST, as they're very focused on getting more answers and just being more what do you call it, transparent with the public, compared to, I don't know, like Amazon in the last story, where they're like, it'll be on the cloud and deal with it. And then lawmakers are like, hey, wait, we just noticed that that might be an issue, but since we're lawmakers, we don't know what that means because we didn't take technical classes.
I hear you. I think this does a good job of informing the public uh, and communicating with them. Speaking of communication, let's go and head over to Facebook
It's where our
and
communication
talk
is.
about the yeah, exactly. And let's talk about the monopoly that Facebook has.
Oh yeah, because it's very apparent, and this is probably I would say the fifth time we were talking about Facebook on here.
I think Facebook will always be in our news
Yeah,
until the
there are,
monopoly is broken up.
because I'll bring up another note about Facebook after this, but yeah, the FTC, or the Federal Trade Commission, has filed an amended antitrust complaint against Facebook, saying that it violated federal antitrust laws, which are supposed to be, I'm pretty sure they're supposed to be abided as far back as when Rockefeller went to court, when he had a monopoly on the oil industry. And as we see nowadays, about 60 plus years later, it's not really like that. It's not that abided in terms of on paper control, as they put it by saying Facebook has maintained a dominant share of relevant market for U.S. personal social networking services since 2011, citing time spent and active user metrics on the daily and monthly scale. Individually and collectively, these metrics provide significant evidence of Facebook's durable monopoly power in social networking services, which this claim was denied back in June for insufficient evidence. Which, sure.
I think Facebook's claim was like, look, we're not the only social media platform. There's other ones. I think they're like TikTok and what was it, Google Plus,
Yeah,
Friendster, MySpace, um, Path, Snapchat.
yeah.
What else? They bought Instagram, right? So now they have Instagram. But like, I think a lot of these other ones are not even used anymore. Like,
No, Google
have you
Plus died
used
out. Like,
MySpace? I haven't used MySpace in 20 years. Google Plus, I made an account and never used
nope.
it. I never even
That
heard of Friendster or Path. And I have a Snapchat, but I don't use it I like barely use it. I use Facebook Messenger every single day because it's basically
there's people that use
I set up on
Messenger
my
instead
phone as
of
my
like having
Messenger
a
app.
phone plan, because unlike a phone plan, Messenger's on paper free if you have a Facebook account, and you'll have, as long as you have Wi-Fi
Right?
or data,
Yeah, as long as you have access to Wi-Fi
then
or like prepaid data or something like that,
you call people
you
on
can
it, video
use
call people
the
and the like on there.
Messenger.
But yeah, once that
Exactly.
market is defined, the complaint relies heavily on attention metrics to establish Facebook's dominance, which personally I would say yes, Facebook has a big dominance field in that. I mean, while let's say the scope of people on Facebook hasn't uh gone through like the younger generations, such as my generation, me and Mike's generation, or even people younger than us that are still in high school or in middle school. Facebook isn't really picking up on those people, as Facebook has currently started to grow more of the let's call it the older generations, like Gen X, as some people like to call it. So
I think until there's some another a competitor to Facebook, there's going to be uh less competition, which I think is a problem. I think right now Facebook
Mhm.
has no competition, and I think this has kept social networking from moving forward. Because like right now, if you think about it, Facebook has all these. They have video calling, they have Messenger, they have you can upload pictures, you can edit your profile, you can add like movies and all this stuff. Until there's a competitor like Google Plus, you can do all that. But is there a Google Plus
no.
messaging app where you can link up your what is it? I think there's like a bunch of other apps you can link into it. Like you can put your phone messaging into there. I think there's a couple other messaging apps that you can put into your Facebook
WhatsApp's
Messenger.
on there, I know.
But like all the messages go right to your WhatsApp. There's a couple others, but like until another social networking platform comes out with a messenger that can do all that for multiple programs. Because I love opening my messenger and be like, oh look, I got a WhatsApp, I got a text, and like it's all right there. So I think there's room for, let's say, all the other messaging apps get together and be like, hey, look, let's come up with one app that takes all the data in and puts it into one messenger. Or maybe someone's like, hey, let's take all the social media messaging platform and make one platform that receives it all, at least. Like if you can read it all in one spot and then go into that app and reply, I think there's a big market for people that like don't want to go to multiple
Yeah,
apps
especially older
to read their
generations where
messages.
it's like I gotta talk to my son on Instagram and then I gotta jump on the FaceTime to talk to him and I gotta go into this and it's like I get why that's confusing for people. As I am friends with people which I don't know if you relate to this, Mike, where they'll follow up a conversation on one app and continue it on another app.
Oh my gosh, that annoys the heck out of me. Or were you having two different
Yeah.
conversations with the same person on two different apps, or where you're like, and sometimes it's just like, hey, my one friend only uses Snapchat, but my other friends only use WhatsApp, and then my other friend only uses Facebook, and then it starts to get
Yeah.
really annoying when you have to switch every 10
So
seconds. So there's potential out there, but Facebook's got so much of the market right now that there's no growth, and I think that's one
yeah,
of the biggest
because
problems with
I
Monopoly.
didn't
There's no
even get
growth.
into how what other stuff Facebook has. Like Facebook has games. It has a marketplace right now. Like someone tried to show me all the cars that are sold on Facebook. Like you can sell
Yeah,
cars on Facebook. You can have dating on Facebook. That one's actually new
right.
from this year. You can date on Facebook, which I'm pretty sure I trust Craigslist more than Facebook dating.
That's another thing that died because of Facebook. Facebook Marketplace took over. Like, I don't know anyone that goes on Craigslist anymore. Everyone just goes to Facebook
Yeah,
Marketplace.
because it's
I've sold
proximity.
stuff on
There's a
Craigslist
word for it.
Marketplace. Or on Facebook Marketplace. I'm sorry.
It's
What was
there's a
that?
word for it, but it's essentially proximity to services where they just try to embed everything in one spot so that they use it. But sometimes when a company does a bunch of things in one service, none of them are ever good. Like they're all right, but they're not good. It's like when you have a company do a bunch of things like I don't know, Microsoft and when they branch off
Everything, but only
when they
some things
branch
are
off to
good.
do like
Yeah.
30 different things and not all of them are perfect or even good, then that's a problem compared to like I don't know, like a smaller developmental company like OnePlus or Android. Not nope, scrap that, not Android. Like OnePlus, that's like we're gonna just make phones and that's it. Maybe headphones, but that's a slower process right now. And you make a good phone because you focus on only making a good phone and listening to your consumers easier because you don't have a bunch of people yelling at you about your different products like Microsoft, where it's like, oh, what's wrong with the Xbox One X? when are you guys gonna fix that? Mine's not shipping here yet. And you jump to other people complaining about other stuff Microsoft has, like other stuff they do outside of gaming, and they jump towards other stuff. Like my Teams isn't working. Why is the Teams servers down today? Alongside Office concerns, like that's three different things right there that a company has to deal with. So the fact tying this back into this, Facebook has held a great amount of focus on the social networking market, which I would argue it's held a monopoly on the social networking market longer than 2011.
I
Essentially,
agree.
like I would say as far back as let's say 2008, maybe longer, because MySpace died before 2010, and all other stuff tried to pop up and do something. Like I believe the only competitor in terms of consumer use right now next to Facebook is probably Twitter, which I don't want to get into the bag of words of Twitter and how they're violating like a bunch of stuff right now in terms of misinformation, bullying, uh, moderating in general. But I credit Mrs. Lena
Speaking of
Khan on this matter, so we'll look at this further on as we go into further podcast readings. But Facebook's on the chopping block again, so
hopefully some good things come out of it, and there's maybe a division or someone else comes up in the market and takes some of the controlling stake in that. But speaking of bullying, let's talk more about let's talk about this Yik Yak app that's coming back out for social
right.
media. Um, have you heard about this before? This is my first time
I
hearing about this.
heard about it
I've
like
never.
a bit in high school when, long story short, a scandal broke out of someone sharing pictures that weren't consensual with like the user that wanted those pictures to be released, and it made local news. And they found two Yik Yak posts and put it on the website and on broadcast TV, local broadcast TV, not national. But they used Yik Yak
For
posts.
those of you that don't, for those of you that don't know, Yik Yak's an app where you can post and comment and upvote uh on I think it's
Yeah,
anonymous, right? Where it's just local people's posts and everything's anonymous. But it was a big problem with people that were getting bullied on it. So they took it down. Uh
they're trying to.
I don't know. I think it's got a lot of potential where it's just a bunch of local messaging. You kind of can meet up with people in your area. You can talk to people in your area. You can. It's got a lot of potential. They said it's big on college campuses where, uh, I don't know, like you could just meet up with new people that on a campus that maybe you're just making some friends. Maybe you're from out of state. You get on Yik Yak or Yik Yak and make some new friends on Yik Yak. I think it's got a lot of potential, and I think it's kind of like a really cool app and kind of see what's going on in your area.
It's a balancing act
I think
that's
it's got.
more
I
people are
think
more concerned about now that it's back on the surface, which for people that want to know, it's available on iPhones only or iOS. So none of us Android users like myself are able to get it. But
Yeah, that kind of makes me mad. If you have an app, you need to come out with it on Android very quickly after you come out with it on iOS, because you're missing a huge demographic. And I think this app has a lot of potential for small businesses, like small local businesses that, like, say you were having an event and you want to put it on Yik Yak. You can potentially get a lot of customers that way. So I think this, not only for social media, I think this is good for small businesses, which is kind of what America's
mhm.
built on. Uh, so this app has a ton of potential. I'm glad it's coming back out. And they seem to be kind of like cracking down on people bullying. So they kind of have like a zero tolerance when it comes
It's
to
just
bullying.
community guardrails, as they put it. to prohibit the sharing of personal information as well as construing activities and posts and trying to remove those as fast as possible that are in the vein of, as they put it, bullying, abuse, defamation, harassment, stalking, targeted hate, or public humiliation, which they tried to fix back in 2016, the first half of 2016, when they said there's going to be optional social media handles, which you have to put in, and they made mandatory by August of 2016, which essentially removed what made the service unique, which has been a trend of social media networks in terms of seeing the downfall of their network when they take down something that's made themselves unique, a la Tumblr, a la OnlyFans.
Well,
Just noting recent changes right now, but I can get into that another time. As the original incarnation of Yik Yak ended up shutting down in early 2017, as it was then sold to Square for $1 million for its engineering talent base and its IP name base.
well, hopefully we see some good stuff coming out of Yik Yak. I'd love to see an Android version soon. Because I cannot be a customer until it has an Android version, and uh, I would really love to try that out. So moving forward, speaking of customers, uh, the customers of T-Mobile?
Yes, so this is the part of this is the security breach that occurred at T-Mobile, where at least 47 million current and former customers were affected by this breach, as reported by TechCrunch.com. Well, of course, other people reported on it, but mainstream media doesn't care about tech stuff. But this got picked up by the right people, as T-Mobile is still is a big network, like in terms of people that use it. You know, like I would say it's the second biggest network I think going right now, if I want to call it, behind Verizon in terms of just getting a scope of people. But the carrier said that some personal data was also taken in this hack, which included customer names, date of births, social security numbers, and driver's license information for a subset of current and former postpaid customers and prospective T-Mobile customers, including 40 million records.
That is a big red flag. Whenever you hear social security number hack, that is a problem because that's identity theft right there. People can whoever this hacker is, if they sold off that information, people could pretend to be you, fill out whatever credit card or anything like that. Start
Buy whatever they
exact
want and just act upon whatever they want. They can solicit you for illegal activities on dark web. It's sketchy stuff that happens when your SSN gets out and you're essentially compromised
exactly.
or made compromised essentially, which is why in essence for trying to keep everything safe in terms of how to stop this breach from happening for anyone listening to this. I would say don't put too much information on your phone. Like for instance, I wouldn't put my credit card on my phone as you might have something like this happen where anything connected to your phone gets taken. As well as have better password and passcodes on your phone. Biometrics are good, but if you just have a passcode that's like, I don't know, 4 zeros, like Mr. Kanye West did in the one video where I don't know if you're familiar with that, Mike. He was like trying to show something to some friends of his, and he just spammed the zero key, and he unlocked his phone, and that just made a concern to me in terms
This is
of
my first time hearing
how many
about
other
this.
people do that. But essentially, it started with this guy going on. This continued with this hacker agent going on the what do you call it, like a hacker base or like his hub online forum that has a bunch of cyber criminals on it by saying, "Hey guys, I have a bunch of T-Mobile stuff. What do I do with it?" So not exactly keeping it quiet. some of them fessed up and told people, "Hey, what are you telling about us about that?" He's like, "Cause I got all this data. I don't know what to do with it." It's just like that gets scary because that gets on the level of how WikiHow and GitHub were basically turned into hubs for more nefarious purposes, even though it started as a greenlit purpose for developers like people like me and Mike to share code and just get pointers and feedback on projects and figure out how to do stuff in terms of documentation as well as procedures and theories regarding tech problems in our work.
I'm
But
trying to find an article where it says what was hacked, but I don't think they specifically said if it was one of their servers that hosted the information or if it was like individual phones. Because you mentioned it being phones. Was it their phones that were hacked, or was it one of the T-Mobile servers that stored their billing information? I don't think it says. I can't find anywhere where it specifically says what got hacked. But I was gonna say if this either way, it is important to protect your phone and your passwords. And we'll go more over how to protect your credit line and all that, going more into depth later on in the security section. But yeah, so yeah, make sure you guys are deleting information from your phones and stuff like that.
have good passwords.
Exactly. Have good passwords. There's even password managers you can go look at, and we'll talk more about that in the security section. Let's go ahead and go over and talk about the Windows 11 getting some snippet tools and calculator and mail app updates.
Yes, so I'm not sure how much we can touch upon this as it's only mostly a UI fix. As most of what's been exposed by Windows 11, they've said is a lot of UI fixes, less technical, more UI fixes to essentially better suit users in their eyes, or when I've tested, I would say. Such as it was on a podcast episode, I believe, podcast episode 2, where we mentioned that they're making the blue screen of death customizable, as well as making stuff have rounded corners.
I mean, a different visual
So,
look is always nice. Let's talk more about the snippet tool though. The snippet tool and the SketchUps app and these apps have been kind of basic apps for Windows 11. So it's kind of nice that
mhm.
I think they said that the even the calculator is being coded in C now, so like developers can get their hands on it and to kind of help out with its development and maybe even come out with their own swing on things. So I think there's a lot of potential here uh, for developers to kind of make their own. Like they could go in there and edit the calculator so much it doesn't even look like a Windows calculator anymore. So there's a lot of potential.
Yeah, technology is built on innovation, so whatever changes are possible and creativity can be put out. I like seeing creativity put out,
I agree.
both in any forms of art and media. Like, it was just the other day, actually. I don't want to sidetrack too long, but it was just the other day. I was just watching the Suicide Squad movie, the new one, not the old one, and just seeing someone's mind on display in the form of James Gunn just shows how much a creative mind with no pullback can put out for something, which I want to see developers do that continuously,
Agree.
but be it their own projects or in their own work, and be it for a big company like Windows putting out Windows 11, or just an art project, or like a I don't know, a diagram for something for like a mid-tier company or industry. I'm losing my train of thought here,
It's
but
okay.
essentially, creativity put out is good,
I agree.
and
I'm on board.
if you ever feel locked down by it, then I would rethink your job if they're keeping you down
I agree.
in terms of
I think this is
creativity.
a call out to all developers. Just hey, look, we're making things adaptable for you guys to get in there and kind of add your own splash of paint on it. And I think this is a good way. Like I think it's kind of like just a quick glance of things to come. So I think this is very promising. Even though it's just, hey, like, look, you can edit the calculator now and kind of come out with your own maybe color schemes or whatever these people want to do with it. I think it kind of shows of where they're kind of going with stuff. So I'm excited.
And that's just what's been available now, but more should come as the release date gets potentially pulled, or not pulled, as the release date approaches for them trying to put it out in October. As while these are small changes that we've been able to see right now and reside in just making stuff in dark mode, which is more applicable for less eye twitching and uh, just eye strain in general. If your work involves working with computers all day, such as myself, it just has it coincides with our previous stories where feedback and just synergy with your consumers is always good, rather than avoiding it. A la Amazon, where they don't really get word back from the people. But
Speaking of getting feedback from your people, what is your feedback on Mark Zuckerberg's Facebook metaverse? Uh, they're saying his next big bet. He's saying that going forward, I expect people will transition from seeing us as primarily a social media company to seeing us as a metaverse company.
uh,
What do you see?
I
What are you thinking
that
here?
that's it's I'm sorry, but that sounds kind of weird when he says it like that. Like, because I know Mark Zuckerberg isn't like other billionaires where they kind of act normal, for lack of a better word. But to use the word metaverse, which is something you'd find like in, I don't know, like a Star Trek movie
Sound
or
like that, doesn't it?
like Twilight Zone stuff. Like, what essentially he means was last week he greenlit or showed off to Good Morning America of all people his work metaverse where you can get your workers on VR and have work meetings on this space, which I would say would have been reliable last year when a lot of people were concerned about how they would do their work in general, because of the growth of the coronavirus spread, which hasn't settled down yet. But
Yeah, the Delta strain is kind of annoying. I
yeah,
thought more things would be open. I thought less masks would be on, uh, or less mask signs would be up at least. But it seems to kind of just be lingering. I think isn't
yes,
Florida like one of the worst states too? And I'm sitting right in the middle of it, or right on the edge actually. But
yeah. That's what I was. You're getting. That's what I want. I want to see. I hope for your safety
I'm
because
being
you're getting Hurricane Henri and you're getting COVID
I'm
spread.
being very careful. I'm not leaving for very much. I'll go out to the store get groceries, but that's about it.
So, other words Zuckerberg put in terms of this was continuing on with the piece was that he said that he explained that people would be able to quote teleport between different experiences, and that it was working towards achieving this vision years ago, but only recently started using this terminology publicly, per a report by Bloomberg. That this virtual environment will be accessible to all kinds of devices and headsets, which just to give a second to VR, I don't know if it's like at a good state right now because it's still not commercial.
And it's still expensive, right?
It's still expensive. HTC Vive is $650.
I think if they came out with like a cheaper version and like marketed it to their customers, and like you'd have to like there's a bunch of like VR video games where you kind of just hang out with people. Like if he kind of gave that experience to people in his like through Facebook, you kind of just hung out in like environments that you can create, that would be kind of cool. Um, Kind of like with his
Because,
Second Life
yeah,
combined with VR chat. Give me one of those, and that might be fun. Um,
like, I get the potential for that for like workplaces, like to have like a, I don't know, more formal use of those sort of spaces. Because this metaverse isn't the isn't just pertaining to Facebook, as companies like Nvidia Corp, as well as Roblox Corp and Epic
you know what he
Games.
should do? He should partner up with the VTubers and like make a VR space for the VTubers. So you can just like go into a VR environment and be like and like talk to your favorite VTubers. Or like maybe you
uh,
could be in like the audience at like a VTuber show. I don't know.
Explain to the people listening what a VTuber
A
is.
VTuber is kind of like an animated. So this person had the person that's like streaming or whatever. They have a setup where they can, I think it's with their phone, right? It kind of tracks their facial expressions and like
Mm-hmm.
animates the a character on screen that is pre-made. Um, it kind of like animates their facial expressions as they're like playing a game or streaming or whatever. Um, but it's become pretty popular, especially on like YouTube and Twitch and all that kind of stuff.
It mimics what Zuckerberg put on for this metaverse idea, as his this metaverse work idea did have avatars in
Did it
it, where
really?
it was a digitally made avatars. Like you can customize your avatar to make it look like
So
yourself.
basically, we're all VTubers now.
Potentially, if we all get inside
I gotta,
Zuckerberg's
I gotta
metaverse.
be honest. I low
So,
key wanted to be a VTuber. So like I'd be on board with this. Um,
because like Zuckerberg has like a lot of issues ever since the Cambridge Analytica trial of 2017. But I'll give him this, as this might be the first take to finally maybe get VR commercially accepted. Well, not accepted, but
it's a start.
heard about. Heard about, would help. So because like my mom's generation doesn't know anything about VR. Neither does like the generation in between mine and hers. That are like just starting to have kids now. Like they'll like use VR like at the mall or something. Or like when they go to the Kennedy Space Center like I did once, where you try it out and it's like you're inside a spaceship and you're like touching stuff and you're like floating in fake zero G, but it's only from like your headset and your hands,
See,
the controllers they give you.
I'm a big fan of
So
VR, but I was really a big fan of augmented reality. You know what augmented reality is, right? Well, for our viewers, it's kind of like VR, but like you could kind of see through your headset as well. So like you can like touch stuff in the real world. So kind of, but like there's also like graphical overlays. So like you might see a couch, but there might be like for example, a VTuber sitting on that couch that's not really there. So there's a lot of potential there. And there was supposed to be like
I've
theme
seen,
parks,
yeah.
right? There's supposed to be like theme parks for like people that wanted to play a video game in augmented reality. So like it's kind of like laser tag plus VR basically. So
Whatever helps the VR
I
base
think there's a lot of
would help,
potential there.
because exactly, because reportedly 20%, well, they misspelled percent in this piece. Come on, business today. Reportedly 20% of the company's employees are working on AR and VR, and that's pertained to Facebook,
Interesting.
with 20% working on AR and VR. So I'll continue looking at this story going forward, because unlike the mainstream media, I follow through with stories and
I'm glad someone does.
try to stay focused on it before I get clouded in stuff that doesn't matter. But moving on to hardware, tell me, Mike, about Intel getting into the graphics battle
Exciting news
of PC
for
gaming.
Intel fans. Intel is making Arc is what they're calling it, an Arc GPU. So as far as we know right now, it's only compatible with Intel, or it's not compatible with AMD.
Of course,
So if you're AM,
you have to try to get scope of everything of that. AMD is another graphics card competitor in like the scheme of things,
Mhm.
and that it's basically them, Nvidia, and now Intel.
So this is good. So there's more competition, which means hopefully, crossing my fingers, lower prices. Now my PC right now is AMD, but if the prices are low enough and the GPUs work just as well as the other brands out there, I can see myself maybe buying one and maybe building another PC. Um, because I have been thinking about building like a server, or like a mining
Mm-hmm.
PC or anything like that, and
Not mining for Minecraft people, but
but like yeah, mining crypto. But uh, I can see potential here, and there's competition, and hopefully they come out with some of their own features that make their GPUs like more, I don't know, more user friendly, or I don't know if that's the word I'm looking for, but
well, more up to date would be a good term because they're said to be capable of mesh shading, variable rate shading, video upscaling, and real-time ray tracing, which has been a lot of talk in gamers' minds in terms of wanting the best graphics and performance and just overall uh, innovative look into what gaming should be in terms of what I want my graphics card to do and what the games that want that to do and work codependently with the graphics cards, you know. And this is only teasing of the brand, as per the date of this article on The Verge. If you want to check it out, it's on TheVerge.com. As it was also teasing the brand of its Arc GPUs in terms of names, which include, now get ready for this, Battle Mage, Celestial, and Druid.
they sound cool.
So I mean, they sound like D&D
They
names,
do.
but
I like that.
but
I think it's promising.
I could.
I think
It's promising still, and it's another name into the hat in the terms of the GPU fight, which currently most people see as two people
exactly.
in the GPU fight, which is Nvidia and AMD, and now a third, excuse me, a third player in Intel.
And hopefully it gets those frame rates up, because I think they said there was going to be a frame rate smoothing feature. But speaking of frame rates, let's talk about Dell's first portable monitor.
Exactly, because when a gamer wants a good graphics card, he or she needs to have a good monitor.
Agreed, agreed.
And now this is compelling in terms of as someone that doesn't even have monitors really. It refers to it as well Dell, as this is another story on TheVerge.com if you want to follow into this, as this is Dell's first portable monitor. That even though it says in the piece that it looks like it was yanked off another laptop. They refer to it as a C1422H. It features a built-in stand that tilts between 10 and 90 degrees. It weighs around less than 2 pounds and can reach a peak brightness of 300 nits, which I don't know how well that is in the eyes, but there you go.
300 nits. That's pretty decent. I think looking at it from a gamer standpoint, the 60 hertz refresh rate is kind of low. But I don't think you're going to be gaming on this. And even if you're gaming on your laptop or whatever you're hooking this up to, I don't think you're using the screen for your main gaming experience. I think this is your side panel for, I don't know, messing with music or pulling
Work.
up like guides, or yeah, working on one panel while
I
gaming
see
on the
it
other.
using this for streamers,
Especially streamers.
like to have like their chat on one thing and like the game on another
Yeah.
screen, and just have be able to move that screen to be like more direct with the
So
people that are viewing their
so
content.
gamers on the go. So like let's say you're on the go and like you're traveling for work or whatever, or screen, and you can put the stream on your second screen and play the game on the first
It's
high
not
price.
gonna come cheap.
But if you're someone that really needs it for streaming or for work or for whatever, I think it might be worth the investment. But if I'm saying, if I'm using this for gaming, if I'm out on the go on my laptop and I want to have a second monitor, I think this is a little bit cheap or a little bit pricey. I think there's cheaper options.
Yeah, I would believe so. As they said in this piece that it effectively kind of mirrors the Lenovo $246 portable display, but
And then was there an
uh,
ACO that just costs over $100? So honestly, I like, if I, as a gamer, if I'm out and about with my laptop and I just want a second display for pulling up a guide or just listening to YouTube music or watch like, or even if I want to watch something on like on a second screen, like let's say I'm watching Rick and Morty on one screen while playing RuneScape on the other or whatever. I mean, most of the time I'm
yeah, I
using
have
like
that.
picture in picture because Opera's got the picture in picture kind of thing where it's the pop out. But like, I mean, let's say I wanted to, it's a new episode, I wanted to watch it on a big second monitor like that. I think it's worth it for that, especially if you got the money spare for the AOC. Uh,
Yeah, so to give my perspective on this, I would say wait. Like don't buy this immediately, people. Like get a good scope on what all the options are, such as the Lenovo monitor as well as other brands.
right, yeah. Do you?
As like we like to say on this podcast, competition is rife and good. So whenever I see a present, I am intrigued as to how competition can foster new ideas, or in maybe this case, mimicked ideas that hopefully Lenovo doesn't yell at them for potentially taking their idea. But you can't trademark a portable monitor on paper again. But yeah, I'm intrigued by this idea in terms of what I can bring. As it was at my previous workspace at Kent State while I was finishing up my time there. The norm was two monitors at every workstation.
It's
You
definitely
know,
it's definitely great for productivity. There's I used to like when I used to use a Roku for my second monitor, and I kind of miss it because there's a it. I mean, it just helps productivity. Like I throw up a game guide and one and play the game on the other monitor. So definitely try it out if you haven't before. So should we slip into security? Give people some tips and tricks on how to protect your phone from being hacked.
righto. So essentially, while T-Mobile doesn't even want to let out the scope of how much was taken or how it was taken, as stuff in the past that's affected T-Mobile, because this isn't the first time T-Mobile's been hacked. This is the fifth time they've been hacked and compromised in some way since 2015, which lots of it coincides with other services, such as if you have. Uh, it happens a lot, I think, with. I want you to say if you agree with this. I think it happens a lot with credit cards and hotels. Like if you book your room for your family or yourself or your partner on an app and you pay it with your credit card, and you put your credit card on the hotel booking app, then it's stored on there still. And if it's left out and if it's just left there after you're done using it and you're not going to hotels, then I would say delete it as soon as it's done. Or, well, because it'd be best to just not do it because I don't trust putting my credit card on my phone, as I said before. But some tips I would say for this would be to keep an eye on your credit in some way, shape, or form, as there's many different credit monitoring services to help watch your credit report. As in case something shady comes up, like always have a tracker on what's spent on your credit card or in your bank account in general, in case something pops up. Like I didn't order food from Uber Eats yesterday at 4 in the morning.
This
That's not
this has
me.
only happened to me one time where I got a message that said, "Hey, do you approve this purchase?" And it wasn't me. But it's good to have this feature activated on your credit card, on your bank account. Uh, Another tip of advice is go to all three credit bureaus and have them freeze your credit in case someone tries to buy something on credit under your name.
Which God, T-Mobile was offering 2 years of McAfee ID theft protection services for those affected by the latest breach, which that's a good sign that T-Mobile's at least cognizant of what's this done for people that could have been affected by this. Because when you hear a number like 47 million and you're a T-Mobile user, and T-Mobile's just sitting there going like, I don't know who's all affected, then them just putting out just free to capture to just kind of help yourself in case you're one of the people infected. It's better than nothing. And other things to better protect you would be sign up for identity theft monitoring, which would protect you in the event of the social security numbers and credit that might be taken. Which that can all be saved also if you just don't pay anything on your phone using your phone or credit card apps on your phone. But regardless, that's always a good thing to have in general as well. If you don't pay with credit at all either and you use paper like my parents do still. Also, a way to help would be to just have good password managers to help it create and store login information in case it's too complicated.
This is something I've
Because
been thinking about doing for a long time. There's plenty of managers out there that can manage your passwords. There's even password generators that can generate very long and hard to guess passwords or hard to force hack passwords. So don't be afraid to get out there
mhm.
and test some of those out. Uh, and protect your information. It's important to keep that information protected. So those are our tips.
and some
Oh, go ahead. Go ahead.
just to get a scope on password managers, I would recommend LastPass as that's what my workplace uses, and I find it to be pretty good. As it also has its own patented authenticator app, which is good for two-factor authentication on apps. Which, while it's a burden, and you might get annoyed by having to constantly flip your phone up to log in just to log into something like your email or something. But
Yeah, two-factor
with cybercrime increasing, it's always good
two-factor
to just have
identification
better security.
is very important. Even as far as three-factor identification, where you need three different things to log into an account, especially for your most secure information, is is a big help.
Hmm. Especially those in the range of banks or other institutions, your health data, even something as simple as like delivery apps, as well as self-circulating and connected to your work. So you can look up these tips and more on cnet.com as well as other pieces that can be done on other such sites we mentioned today, like techcrunch.com and theverge.com. I always recommend those spaces to just get the latest and just keeping yourself safe from cyber criminals.
Well, thanks for joining us today, guys. Uh, Thank you for listening, and make sure you guys stay safe out there.
And always be cognizant of everything around you, and just don't be afraid to lend a helping hand and just give someone a listen and just hear some people out, because we can all use some different perspectives. Stay safe, everyone, and till next time.
Bye.
Bye.